The forest was alive with shadows, their long fingers stretching across the path as the sun sank below the horizon. The Ashgrove Trail was as beautiful as it was remote. A perfect escape, Aaron had thought. But now, with only the sound of his boots crunching on the leaves, he wasn't so sure. Aaron adjusted the straps of his faded osprey pack, the weight pressing against his shoulders. He hadn't told anyone where he was going. Not his co-workers, not even his ex-girlfriend Claire, who had begged him to find a better way to clear his head. Solitude had sounded ideal after months of stress. But this kind of silence, the kind that seemed to press against his chest, amplifying every heartbeat, was different. The Ashgrove Trail was infamous. People whispered about disappearances, though no one had proof. Just stories. Aaron had dismissed them as nonsense, urban legends designed to scare off rookies. Now, though, he found himself glancing over his shoulder more often than he liked. He quickened his pace, hoping to make camp before nightfall. That's when he saw it. A red backpack sat upright in the middle of the trail, its vibrant colors stark against the muted browns and greens of the forest floor. Aaron stopped, frowning. It wasn't just the backpack, it was how out of place it looked. Clean, almost pristine, as if someone had set it down just moments before. "Hello?" he called, his voice hesitant. The forest seemed to inhale his words, swallowing them whole. He scanned the trees for any sign of movement, but saw only shadows. His pulse quickened as he stepped closer. The bag looked expensive, a North Face. Aaron knelt beside it, the straps warm against his fingers despite the evening chill. Unzipping it felt wrong, like opening someone's diary. But curiosity won. Inside, he found 3 items: a leather-bound journal, the edges warped and stained, a Polaroid photograph, the trail in the picture uncannily similar to the one he was on now, a small, dented tin box. The air around him felt colder, sharper. Aaron zipped the bag shut and stood, his stomach twisting with unease. Later, by the firelight, Aaron opened the journal. The pages smelled damp, the ink smudged in places. The handwriting belonged to someone named Emily, her words spiraling from calm observations to panicked scrawls. The trail is beautiful, quiet, but it's the kind of quiet that makes you feel watched. Aaron flipped forward, his fingers trembling. Something's wrong. I hear whispers at night, like voices carried on the wind. I thought it was my mind playing tricks, but today I found footprints around my tent. I'm not alone. The entries became erratic, the writing jagged. It's not just the forest. It's in the ground, the trees, the air, everywhere. I think it's following me. No, I know it is. Aaron's hands shook as he closed the journal. He couldn't explain why, but he felt it too, that sense of being watched. He glanced at the Polaroid. The trail in the photo wasn't just familiar, it was ahead of him, a clearing he'd passed earlier. The fire crackled, but the warmth did nothing to ease Aaron's nerves. He tried to convince himself it was just a story, the ravings of a scared hiker, and yet, when he heard a twig snap in the distance, he froze. "Hello?" he called again, his voice shaking. No answer. Only the whisper of leaves in the wind, or was it the wind? Against his better judgment, he grabbed his flashlight and headed toward the clearing in the Polaroid. When he reached it, the sight made his blood run cold. A wooden post stood in the center, weathered and cracked. Pinned to it was a missing person's flyer, the corners curling with age. The face on the flyer was Emily's. Aaron's throat tightened. The date on the flyer matched the last entry in her journal. Aaron turned back toward his camp, his flashlight cutting through the dark. The forest had changed. The trees seemed taller, their branches clawing at the sky. Shadows shifted just beyond the beam of light, and the whispers were louder now, distinct. "Don't look! Don't turn around!" Aaron's breath came in short, sharp gasps. He stumbled forward, desperate to put distance between himself and the clearing. But when he reached his campsite, he stopped dead in his tracks. The red backpack was there, sitting in the middle of the trail where he'd first found it. The air seemed to vibrate, heavy with an unnatural energy. Aaron's legs felt like lead as he approached the backpack. The tin box inside the bag called to him, and against every instinct screaming in his head, he opened it. Inside was a tarnished locket and a lock of hair, brittle and gray. The moment his fingers brushed the locket, the forest dissolved around him. He was in another place. A vision. Emily stood in the clearing, surrounded by shadowy figures, their faces obscured, but their forms human-like. They whispered in unison, their voices low and guttural. Emily screamed, her hands clawing at the ground, but the figures closed in, pulling her into the earth itself. The vision shattered, and Aaron was back in the forest, gasping for air. The whispers had stopped, but the silence was worse. Aaron didn't remember how he made it out. When the search party found him the next morning, he was curled in a fetal position, clutching the locket. His words were incoherent, something about whispers, shadows, and a red backpack. The backpack was never found. Weeks later, a hiker on the Ashgrove Trail reported finding a red North Face backpack sitting upright in the middle of the path. And the whispers began again.